welcome to another episode of the Two Act Podcast, a weekly discussion on anime, cinema, and TV. I'm your co host, Adi, and as always, I'm joined here with gothjon. And this week, we're going to be reviewing Korean author Park Chan-wook's newest thriller, No Other Choice, starring Lee Byung-hun, in movie that's based on a novel, an American thriller novel by Donald Westlake called The Axe, but it's an adaptation into a Korean black comedy drama, and it stars Lee Byung-hun as manager of a paper mill company who's abruptly laid off after 25 years of loyalty and is soon left with debt and a family to provide for, which leaves him unemployed, facing tough decisions that makes him decide that he has to go to extreme lengths in order to find employment again. And this movie made a lot of waves in the festival circuits. I think it was definitely one that popped up from Venice like a few months ago around the summer, and it's been making the waves ever since. I've been very eager to watch it, but glad that we're reviewing this today. Getting into opening thoughts. John, what did you think of No Other Choice?
Oh God, Adi. I saw the runtime and I was a little worried. I was like, oh, it's going to be a pretty long one. And I was like, oh, I really hope this is not like that Japanese film where we watched that guy clean all those bathrooms. I was like, I really hope. I really hope. And to my surprise, I was entertained.
You were? Okay. That's good to know.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, how wouldn't you be entertained? Why wouldn't you be not entertained? I mean, it's Park Chan-wook. I don't think we've reviewed a director's work like 3 times in the podcast. Like I think we did
Not
the
yet.
first one on Old Boy
Mm-hmm.
and the second one on Decision to Leave, which is
Mm-hmm.
my recommendation, I believe. And now we're here the
Mm-hmm.
third time. Well, I think before we talk about the film, I mean, I just want to say Park Chan-wook is arguably one of the most famous directors from South Korea. I mean, his work and his ability to handle themes
Mm-hmm.
with
Yeah,
such like
you got
revenge
him and
thrillers,
the
dark
Parasite
humor.
guy.
Yeah, he and
Bong.
Bong Joon-ho. Yeah, I think they both are like up there as
Yeah.
two of the most to like consistently make movies that are so like so altered, but
Mm-hmm.
also they leave their impressions on international audiences, and I think they've been influential in like getting Korean cinema more out there in the West and globally. Of course, there's a growing like taste for this, and this is an interesting one to talk about because it's actually, I believe it's not even the first movie to adapt the novel. The movie's been adapted before by Costas Gravas. It's like a French adaptation that came out like 2 decades ago or something. But yeah, the novel came out like 1997 or something, and I think this was like a passion project for Park Chan-wook. I think ever since he got the rights, he's been planning to make this movie for decades or something, and finally he managed to get it done. And well, my impressions were like looking at it, like just looking at the posters and everything. I knew like his movies are always like dark. They're always like
Mm-hmm.
thrillers, or they have some like element of like darkness to it. In this case, it's like a black comedy. I guess like I knew there was gonna be like a lot of murders or something. I felt like I was gonna walk into like a really gory movie, but I was actually surprised by how funny the movie was and how uncomfortable the comedy that it derives from its source material. And I think it's like an interesting, very potent anti-capitalist take on society, or the atomization of society breaking down on each other and dehumanization that occurs from it. But I guess we can talk about like how the movie starts, because it's literally about Lee Byung-hun's character, who plays his character. Sorry, Lee
Mansu.
Byung-hun. Mansu,
Yeah.
yeah, he plays
Yeah.
Mansu, who is a family man. He has like a wife and two kids,
Mhm.
lives in this beautiful house, but he works at a paper mill company as a manager for 25 years until he seems like he has a perfect life. Don't you think? He's got like
Yep.
a
He's got
great
the
house,
American dream.
an American dream, two golden
Mm,
retrievers,
Yep.
and like barbecue and
He's got even his own garden.
his own. Yeah, he's an enthusiast. He's a gardening enthusiast, and seems like he's got the perfect life. Like there's nothing there to complain about. And then literally soon following after, I mean, after you get to see an insight on how their family dynamics are,
Mhm.
you get to see him like getting laid off at the paper mill company that he works for, where he's been the manager. I think he won an award working
Yep.
there as well. It's a pulp man of the year or something.
Yeah.
It's really
It's a,
funny.
a paper pun.
A paper pun, yeah. And so this company gets taken over by American
Yep.
investors, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
And at first, I think his job is safe because they're told like, you'll have to be responsible in like handling the news of telling people, they've been laid off or whatever. And then soon after, he's fine with that as long as it's not his job, which I think is interesting, right? Because every band for themselves. At first, there's like a battle cry and a rally, and be like, no, like, how could I ever deliver some news like this? Like, these are people who've given their life here. But as soon as it gets down to like the threat of him losing his job, I think he's willing to accept doing it until he loses his job too. And that puts him in a very sticky situation.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, I thought it was like it starts off in this really cheesy way, don't you think?
Yep. Yeah, and when they're in that paper mill, I recognize a lot of those machines because I've worked in a paper mill for 6 months. Like once I saw like all those like those skid loaders and all those they're really heavy. They're like tons. Those paper reels. I worked on a coder head and I had to operate this, this crazy amount of money machine and then roll out a piece of paper and then like tape it, put metal straps on it. And like, I was like, oh, I know all these machines, all these tools. Cause the small amount of time that I did a job doing like that, I just thought it was pretty interesting.
Do you think like looking at how this character works there, do you feel like did you think like you completely understood what he was going through?
Oh, absolutely. At least my plant, the summers were dreadfully hot. The air conditioning in those buildings sucks. And in the winters, you're just cold. But
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
like
yeah,
the heat off the machines to keep you warm, so it's not as bad. But the summers, they are hell. You're like in an oven because the paper gets
yeah,
really hot when you put chemicals on it
yeah. Oh, I can imagine. I
because they're
mean,
making special paper there.
yeah, and if you look at the house he has and the family he has, I mean, he's got two kids who are like really, well, one of them's really talented cello player, I think. His wife's like really happy,
She's a stay-at-home mom.
stay-at-home mom, goes to tennis classes, and he's got like two beautiful dogs
Yep.
and a nice garden. So it seems like whatever this job is, like he's paid really well for it because I think it starts off at that barbecue scene
Yep.
where the company gives him an eel, which I thought was interesting. I read something about how like it's very customary for companies to gift their workers in Korea like food
Mm,
every now and then to thank them for their services. But in this case, it's literally a thank you before you're gonna get laid off, which is ironic. But also, eel is meant to represent like energy or something, and it's meant to
okay.
give you energy. So it's fascinating to see that. And then I think like I think we can all relate to this whole thing at some point, right? Because
Hmm.
I'm sure like everyone's lost or had to quit their job at some point in their lives.
Hmm.
And I think like what I really felt more about the film was how like there's something that happens when you get when you spend time away from your purpose, and that prolonged absence sometimes causes like your identity to fall into shambles. And for a guy who spent like 25 years working in a paper mill company as a manager, at the thought of him having to lose this job and suddenly have like to look for a new future or a new
Mhm.
source of employment is kind of a it's kind of a life or death moment for him,
Mhm.
because I think there's a scene where they're like all in therapy after like the layoffs.
Yep.
And it's like one of the most like bizarre scenes I've seen. I don't think
They're
I've
all like
ever watched.
tapping themselves, telling them they have self-worth. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They
I've
want
never
them to
seen
kill
anything
themselves.
like that.
Yeah,
I've
no,
never
it
seen.
was very bizarre.
It is really bizarre, and I don't know. Like again, here's the thing about watching international cinema is like there's certain tonal differences which
Mm.
you can only understand culturally. Like I don't know if that was meant to be like a satirical take on like what that means of losing a job, or if it's
Mhm.
actually something that happens there to people who lose their jobs, that they have to go to like work provided therapy to get them to cope about
Mhm.
losing their jobs. But I thought it was like so I don't know, it was so like bizarre to see. It felt like surreal that they
Mhm.
they had to like go through these like therapy sessions, and then obviously the awkwardness of like conveying that message to your family and having them to like come to terms with like, oh, like things will need to change
Yeah, they're
soon. And I
living
think
way out of their means. Like, there's so much stuff I would have done to keep that house. There are systems in place, at least in the United States, even in dystopian United States, where they have systems that help you keep your house. I'm sure in South Korea it's either the same or even better. You could have gotten so many jobs in the meantime. And every time I've been out of work, it didn't take long to find a new job. Maybe like 2 weeks, and I'd at least have three good prospects.
yeah. Well, but now with I think what the message of the film and why it's so interesting is because now with like there's this growing uncertainty about future employment, especially with like technology and how that's
Mm-hmm.
replacing a lot of jobs, automation, stuff like that, AI. And I think it's interesting like how that's causing like almost a situation where like instead of people rallying together to fight against it, right? There's almost like this is where like everyone's turning on each other,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like dog eat dog, and
Mm.
everyone's like seeing how they can like gain their upper hand and watch their self-interest. And I think it's interesting because like he's in a conundrum where I don't think he can understand like, or accept, rather I don't think he can accept like taking another job, even though his wife Miri is so pragmatic. She's so practical. Like she's the first to be like, okay, we're gonna cut down on budget, we're gonna put the house for sale, we're gonna like, they even give away the dogs.
Yep.
Which is like,
Yeah, she gives the dogs to like her parents.
parents, yeah, because they can't afford to like
And he's
adopt
allergic.
them.
It's funny.
It is,
And
it
those
is.
those
But
those
like,
poor kids, they didn't deserve that.
no, no. But it's like you do see that at the end of the day, he's got this like, it's almost like this. It's a very noble need for him to want to provide for his family, even though that means some of it is like a status thing, which
Mm-hmm.
means that he wants to maintain the lifestyle, the house, and all the good standards that come with it. And yeah, I just wanted to know. I wanted to ask you, like, what did you think of like Mansu? Like, do you feel like he was? Do you think he was up until the point before he decides to do some questionable things?
A questionable thing. Yeah,
Do
I
you
could
think?
relate with him a little bit, but he's like a generation before me. In that generation, I know a lot of folks that, worked at companies for, you know, decades. I
Yeah,
personally have never worked at a company for a decade. At least until recently, I've jumped ship like every couple of years for a raise. I found another job that paid more, and that paper mill that was the tops I've ever been paid. I just keep jumping. I have no loyalty to these companies because they would have no loyalty to me. They would fire me in an instant if they knew they could replace me with automation.
Which I think is like what's likely happening now, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
a lot of the jobs that are being replaced are purely because of that. Like it's just cost
Yeah,
effective.
it's going to be another 5 or 10, 20 years before, a lot of jobs are,
Yeah.
because I was thinking about like the paper mill, and being that I worked at a paper mill, there when the paper reel when the paper would break, the whole line would shut down, and you'd need like 10 people to get the spool running again. So that was my only like nitpick. I was like,
Oh.
there's no way that whole fucking place can be automated.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was surprised by that as well.
Mm.
We'll talk about that ending because I didn't expect like it to be fully automated. I thought they would have at least a few like,
Right, not
you
just
know,
one guy. Yeah.
yeah, not just one guy, but like I think it goes to say like there's something about it, like because like when you work with people, you do develop relationships with them, even if they're just colleagues, and I think it adds to the whole experience of your work or the work you do at a particular place. Is you always like end up having that. I think like there's something for me like there's something ironic about like people fighting for a job that's been completely taken over by machines to create a product that's only useful to humans in a purely offline way. So it's so ironic. And for Mansu, like this whole like I think 3 months go by. I think he's got like 3 months of severance pay. So he has to like find the solution within 3 months. And obviously it starts off with like budget cuts and his wife's like putting the house for sale, which he doesn't want to sell because I think it's his grandfather's
Yeah,
house.
he worked
And
really hard to get that house. It's a big deal to him.
yeah, yeah. Like sentimental value behind the home, and of course, like maintaining the. I think his daughter's like a really talented cello player who he wants to like
Who they don't
provide
really
for.
find that out till later because she won't play for them.
Yeah, yeah. She refuses to play for
Because
them.
she's like socially stunted, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. She's somewhat like I'm pretty sure neurodivergent, and it's yeah. She's like really upset with the dogs being sent away, and I think that really affects like his relationship with her 'cause she just refuses to like speak to him. And yeah, the pressure builds, doesn't it? I mean, it just shows like it's one thing if it was just pure self-interest, but in this case like he really does care about his family and he really wants to like provide for them. But
Mhm.
at the same time, it's causing a rift in his identity because I don't think he can accept the idea of doing anything else. Right? I don't think he works anywhere else. I think he tries to apply for like other jobs within his field, and there's that job interview he has with that Korean paper company, which is like it goes horribly wrong. I think he's
Right.
humiliated.
He's got light shining in his face. It's looking like a doofus.
It's so uncomfortable the way the scene's shot and like the way he sat in front of these suits and they're like yeah the frame the sunlight just piercing through his face and he can't look at the people interviewing him and it's like causing him so much discomfort where he has to like put up an act and obviously be like a yes man just so that he can get the job only to be humiliated and get rejected
Right.
and it leads him to like one of the workers that he tries to like convince. I think he finds like a rival company that's still doing well and he tries to like get his job application through, but I think one of the potential people who's in his position like humiliates him in the toilet and tells him like I think he kicks him away or something.
Something
And
weird.
yeah, it's a really weird scene, and that's where he like gives him like I think he feels pity for him, and he gives him like a few bucks just to like go get a drink or something at a nearby bar, and that's that's where like he goes and he like one thing I like about this whole process is he's always like very faithfully honest to his wife
Hmm.
Miri, and I really like their dynamic because she's like again he's more like he's more the provider, but she's more level headed than him when it comes to like being practical. And I thought that was such an interesting dynamic that they have together because you know she kind of balances him out in a way
Right.
and in a way that he wouldn't be balanced by himself. So that's one of the interesting things I think the director does with this movie because I was reading how like the wife's character didn't really have much of a substantial role in like the novel. So he decided to like infuse more depth into her character. And I think it does make sense because if you look at it like it's kind of a it's kind of an examination of the patriarchal archetypes and how it affects families, especially in modern Korea. But like you look at the women in the film, they're often more pragmatic and practical, while the men are like kind of you know their masculinity. It's like an interesting indictment of their masculinity because they're like willing to do anything but change themselves. If you get me,
Yeah, I get you.
so yeah. So I think it's funny because like he starts like tailing this guy and he realizes oh shit like this guy has the job that I want. The guy who humiliates him in the toilet
Yeah.
and refuses
Yeah.
his application.
Mansu's losing his mind, and when he finally snaps, it's going to be glorious.
Yeah, and this is where like the whole built up to it because we all know this is going to lead to something, a
Right.
conflict of some sort. And like I think there's a scene where he tails this guy. I think his character's name is Seon-chul, who's like the line manager of Papyrus Paper, who's
Hmm.
like also an influencer in social media. So, he kind of like he's the guy who gives him the money to go get a drink at a bar, and then Mansu gets the idea like, I think they're watching TV or something, and his wife's like, and they're talking about this guy, and his wife's like, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if like a thunder struck him and killed him, and you could take his job?" And he like laughs about it initially, and then he gets kind of gets an idea about it, like it snaps something in him, which he normally would never consider until he
Right.
starts tailing the guy, and he's convinced, like, okay, like fuck it, like I have no choice. There's no other choice. I have to like I have to get this guy out. Like, I need to do something to kill him, basically. And he's on the cusp of like, he's on the verge of like dropping this huge pot,
Per plant. Yep.
this red pepper plant pot on top of his head after he tails him. And that's where the movie could have just taken a very interesting
Mhm.
turn. I mean, not interesting in the sense it would have been a very predictable
Right.
choice to do that. Like, that he could have just like finished him off there. But he decides to do something interesting here where he takes a step back and he realizes, oh shit, like killing this guy is not gonna like getting rid of this guy is not gonna get me the job because I need to consider other people in my vicinity who would be better competitors than me to get
Mhm.
his job.
Mhm.
And I think this is where the movie gets like more twisted
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I liked the water dripping on his face. I thought that was a nice touch.
it
It
was a
really
nice touch.
it really showed him,
Yeah.
like, in his desperation to do something, and in the end, he just couldn't drop a pepper plant on the man's head.
No, he couldn't. I think like the old lady who's like on that same roof is like, "You weightlifting or something." It's good.
He's a pepper
Good
plant
spot.
over his fucking head.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's so funny,
He buys
and
that pepper plant from her.
yeah, he does. He decides instead of killing the guy, like I should just buy this, and he forms like a fake company ad at a local newspaper or in the magazine, work magazine called Red Pepper Plant or something, Red Pepper Paper, and he puts up a fake job application, and it's such a clever way for him to like seek who his competitors are because they start sending CVs over, and then he starts to assess like, oh, these guys are my. I think he gets like he shortlists like two people who he thinks are like more likely to get the job over him, and he decides, oh shit, like I need to kill them
Yeah, I got
before
a
I can kill.
little confused during that time. I was like, is he trying to start a company? I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then
Yeah,
I finally understood it when he was trying to kill the next guy.
yeah. No, it's like I thought that too. I felt like maybe he's like trying to instead of go into murder, like pull off this like long con, elaborate
Right.
con or something like that. But it was just him trying to extract information and
Right.
see who's likely to get the job over him because he looks at their backgrounds and he sees they're more qualified or they have more experience than him. And I think he's self-aware enough to know what the job would actually what would who would likely get hired over him. So he's very methodical as a character because he's a gardener, right? Like
Right.
he enjoys gardening. He's got like these bonsai plants in his gardens. He's very like I don't know something about him that's very like it's almost like he's got OCD or something. He's very organized, but he's inept. He's an idiot, but he likes to be he likes to be an organized idiot.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a better way to put it, but I think that's where the movie got really interesting for me because like he's trying to figure this out all while he's having a crazy toothache that's constantly like giving him inescapable distress. It's almost like nagging pain for him.
Mhm.
That kind of shows like the situation he is in economically. But
He's got a
like
tooth pain and he doesn't have money to fix it.
it doesn't I think his wife even takes up like a job at a dentist
Yep.
to work as like a assistant
Yeah, like a dental
and
hygienist.
hygienist, yeah. And so she's clearly like sacrificing all her like lifestyle choices and doing what she can to help provide for the family while I don't think he's really
Lying to
working
his
or
wife about looking for jobs, that's for
job
sure.
applicant.
Now, he was such an honest man. It was kind of odd that he would do that, but you can understand how much of a struggle he's in. He's trying to keep the same life that he had before.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. I think like I said, it's like the thought of like getting over something like that after giving 25 years of your life is a hard pill for him to swallow. I think if you look at it, it's ironic the movie's called No Other Choice because if you look at the movie, clearly he has
He had a
choices.
lot. Yep.
But I think he's like pretty determined to like maintain, like he's hell bent on maintaining the same status quo that he had, that he's unwilling to accept anything less or anything different. And I thought like the movie really builds up. It's got incredible direction. I love the choices with production design, the houses, the way the shots are edited, the cinematography is insane. Like like these are things like I think Park Chan-wook like really elevates the source material.
Mhm.
But the movie really gets going for me when he starts like investigating his first murder victim. That's where like I was really like hooked with the story. Because up until then you're seeing the after effects of him losing the job, which is obviously denial. He's in a state of denial. But like when he finally decides, okay, these are my two competitors that I need to get rid of before I can kill the third guy, who is, the guy he needs to replace. I think that's where something fascinating happens because I believe like you kind of see versions of himself in all three of those people, but like the first victim or the first guy he's going to murder, spoilers, I think I think his name is Byum Mo, who's like again another like laid off worker at a
He's
paper
a
mill
nutter.
company. He is a nutter, right? Well, what do you think of his introduction to this character?
I
And
thought he was pretty funny. Him and his wife, they're two nutters. They're perfect for each other. One is a guy that will never shut up about running paper, and his woman is not playing with the full deck.
yeah, Yeah, yeah. It's a very interesting
They're
dynamic because
perfect for each other.
they are, and bear in mind that Mansu is like really desperate at this point because he's got like foreclosure notices from the banks who are
Yep.
like gonna take over his home if he doesn't pay off like his mortgage payments. And he starts to like almost spy on these two, this couple, Byung and Ara. And Byung is he's a complete idiot, isn't he? He's like an
Yep.
alcoholic, stay at home. He's also lost his job like Mansu. His wife's like more proactive than him. And yeah, like you said, they're nutters. And I think he spies on them while they're having a picnic nearby.
That's
It's
so
it's
weird.
a it's a really funny scene. I really want to talk about this because it builds up really well into that first murder. Because like while he's spying on them, like you kind of get like a glimpse of their relationship, and you get to see like you know he's like his wife is actually like trying to get him out of this stagnant situation and be like, why don't you like work at a cafe or start a cafe or something like that? And he's like, how can I do that? Like, I've spent all these years working at this paper mill company and it's like, it's provided for us and you, like, you've eaten from that, from the business we've had from this. And he's like completely like, he's unwilling to accept, like Mansu, he's unwilling to accept the thought of him doing something like a cafe or working at a cafe. And I think like it's a very funny scene. Like he's just like in the bushes trying to see like what's going on. And you know, she's an interesting character, Ara. Like what did you think of their dynamic at that scene?
I thought they're like I said, they're nutters. They're perfect for each other. They're crazy. And
Do you side with the
man,
wife more?
sure. I side with the wife more. She's being more pragmatic. I'm more pragmatic. So yes. But I did think Mansu like creeping in the bushes. It kind of reminded me of like him being like a voyeur, like somebody who's like watching
Yeah,
people and he gets off to
yeah.
that. Like I thought it was like I was like, is this about to turn into porn? Like what the fuck is about to happen?
So it was gonna turn into a Hitchcockian nightmare
I
or
would hope
something.
not. I
No,
would
it's
have
it's it's
some choice words with you if this turned into a porn and I downloaded the wrong movie.
no, 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 no. It is, but you're right about the voyeurism part because I think like there's something I think naturally, right? I think not to get too philosophical or anything, but I think naturally there's something about like voyeurism or the thought of like seeing something or seeing into someone's life that is like compelling because
Mhm.
you're like, you're curious, you want to know what's going on, you want to get an insight. And it's almost like when you're doing this, right? Even if it's someone you never meet physically, you still kind of develop a connection with them,
Mhm.
unwillingly. Like in this case, I thought what was really interesting in this scene was like he actually relates with Byung-mo's character a lot because they both have been in the same boat. They both held respectable jobs in this same industry and they've both been laid off, and they're both like in a state of shock or denial or unwilling to like change with the times that they're in, even though that is the more like not only the more logical thing to do but also more likely to give you some actual stability in life rather than chasing something that perhaps the ship of that has already sailed. But at the same time he's looking at the wife's character who's telling him, you know, like, why are you just sitting at home? Like, why don't you just do something about it? Like, like start working at a cafe or start a cafe. I'm not sure what it was, but it was one of the two. And he's actually like reasoning with that too. Like he's kind of like looking at her and he's like, yeah, you know what? She's right. And what's funny about that is like once obviously the way the scene unravels is he gets bitten by a snake, which is funny.
I'm gonna slurp out the poison. Just like what the fuck. That's
and
how
the
you
and the
knew she was a real nutter.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, so what happens is basically the couple, they're middle aged, but they have a bit of a spat in the picnic, and I think the husband leaves in disagreement, and then Mansu, who's still in the bushes somewhere, gets bitten by a snake, and then he's like shown rolling over in front of like Ara, who like finds him, and then he's like, "Ah, I've been bitten," and she's like, instantly helping him, and like does this crazy shit where she like literally sucks out the venom from his snake bite in the leg, and it's so I don't know.
No,
It was
no,
like
the
it's so
venom
sexual.
it's a lot higher. It's not that low. You got to go higher.
The scene was so sexual, like the
Yeah, it was weird.
connotations. It was so weird 'cause she's like making eye contact with him while she's like
Yeah,
sucking off
that's
the
kind of
venom
like
from his.
if you ever get stung by a jellyfish, there's an urban legend where you're supposed to pee on them. And I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
just
I've
some
heard
guy
about
that
it.
wanted to get peed on.
I wouldn't be honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. But like, it's funny because it just shows like again, it literally shows she's like a doer. She's a very like pragmatic person. Like she's proactive, unlike the husband who's just getting drunk, listening to
He's a
music at
bum.
home. He's
Yeah.
a bum, and I think it's funny how his name's Byung-mo.
He's a
But
bummer.
Bummo, yeah. So like what happens is like after that he gets away with it because I think he manages to like not get caught watching them.
Right.
But when he goes back to his household, you see him like picking up his wife from the workplace, and his wife's employer is like this young, attractive man. He's like a dentist, and like just before that, I think before the picnic as well, Mansu actually finds out that Ara is like cheating on Bimbo
Yeah.
because he's trying to find out like how he can get into their house, and he sees like a young man escape from one of the bedrooms and sneak out, and he notices like, oh shit, like she's like cheating on him, like there's more to this than just him losing his job here. And I think that's so fascinating again because it goes back to what you said about voyeurism. And it's like, it's like he's latching himself onto their lives without them even knowing about him, which is so interesting. And that's what we do, anyways, when we watch stuff online or we watch films or TV shows. We kind of like associate or we try to latch onto the stories we
Yeah.
see.
It's
And
parasocial.
yeah, exactly. That's the right word. It's very parasocial, especially with social media. We're always doing it, whether it's whatever, true crime or if it's entertainment. And I think like when he goes back, like he's instantly projecting the same fears he picks up from them
Yeah, he
onto
even
his own
mentions
life.
the cafe to his wife.
No, so it starts off like I think he's pissed at his wife because like this guy is like the
He's
dentist, the
yeah, he's
employer is
jealous.
he's
Yeah.
jealous. He's jealous that his wife might be like cheating on him too, like BMO's wife,
Right.
because like they're both again very similar situation. Even though his wife is like actually not, you know, she's actually faithful to him
Right.
for the like there's no real actual telltale sign that she's cheating on him or anything, and she finds it weird that he would even like feel offended by it or anything. And then the second thing is like I think his wife tells him like to consider like other things, and he says word for word, if I'm not mistaken, he says the same thing Yamo says to Ara, which is like, I've worked here for so many years and this has fed you and
Yeah.
provided for us. Like, how
Papers
can
fed
I,
you.
yeah, paper's fed you. How can I walk away from this? Like, paper is all I know. I think it's so funny because, like, I don't know what it is. Like, can you relate with that? Like, can you
Not at
relate
all.
with
No.
like,
No.
not with that situation, but like, when you draw from something and then you start projecting it into your own life.
Oh, maybe a
It's
little, but for like the job stuff, it's always been
No,
every
not the job
instinct.
stuff, not the job
Yeah.
stuff, obviously not the job stuff, but, like, it's interesting that like, I wonder, like, how much of it was, like, subconscious for him or
Mm.
how much of it because sometimes, you're like it can also be, like, peer pressure or
Right.
society pressure. You're like you hang out with a bunch of friends and you see that they're all talking about something and you feel, "Oh, shit, like, I need to," I need to know I need to be invested in whatever they're talking about, or else, I won't be
Yeah,
accepted.
for me, it's a lot of my friends are talking about sports ball, and I don't give a shit. Like a
Yeah.
certain friend group of mine, they love talking about football, and I'm just tuning it out.
Hey, guilty as charged here. I feel offended. I feel personally attacked on.
That's
But
okay. I'm sure there's something I could talk about that you would go out the other ear.
no, but
Everyone's got something like that.
at least we don't. At least if I do that with few other friends when we're in a talk, I won't like. I'll try to acknowledge that, hey, we have someone here who's
Who does not give a
not a
shit.
foot. Let's steer the conversation back. Like, I'll try to say things like that.
And I appreciate
but like it's funny because, like, with Mansu, he like separately discovers these two things about both the couple, and he finally decides, like, yeah, I gotta kill him. I have to, like, there's no
There's
alternative. I think
no other way.
I think
He
he
has
picks
no
up,
other choice.
like the movie suggests, he picks up the gun that's in his house,
Yeah,
which is like his
from
grandfather's or his great
from
grandfather.
the Vietnam War.
Yeah, it's a very, like, old pistol handgun.
Replica. Yeah.
Yeah, and he sneaks it out, and he, like, manages to, like, get a bullet or whatever and load it
Yeah,
up.
he replaces it with
Um,
a fake gun, so nobody's
yeah,
thinking anything's amiss. And then he
yeah,
brings that gun with him with intent to commit murder.
yeah, and this is where, like, I think the first murder occurs, like, around the 1 hour mark. So, like, you have, like, a good hour of, like, just the built up to everything and the whole setup. But I want to talk about this. I want to do a scene breakdown on this first murder because I think, like, for me, it was like one of the scenes of the year. Like, I enjoyed this scene so much, even though it's a murder scene. But it was so, like, it was so it was so funny, and it was so unsettling.
Right.
and and it kind of, like, goes against your expectations of how the scene's gonna play out. So, like, he shows up, like, wearing this. I think he's wearing, like, a gardening,
He doesn't want
like,
to get blood on his shoes.
yeah, he's wearing, like, kind of a. He's
He's wearing
I don't know what do you
overalls.
call it.
Yeah,
Overalls.
like a
Yeah, he's wearing
jumper.
that,
Yeah.
a jumper, and he's got like a mittens
Mhm.
mittens in his hat, which is like, he's walking into their house while Byung-mo is just, like, basically almost passed out listening to music, and Mansu sneaks in, and the music's playing really loud,
Right.
and it's this Korean song called Red Pepper Dragonfly, which is playing. Coincidence, by the way, the name. But it's a really good song because I think it really works, because it's kind of really, like, inadequate for the scene. But it's my scene of the year because first we have Mansu, who's being, like, he's completely a doofus. He's completely hilariously out of his depth, and he's just running with it. Like, he walks in, and Byung-mo thinks, he's the other man in the relationship, because Byung-mo finds out, right? Because
Yep.
Byung-mo finds out that his wife's cheating on him when Mansu tries to, like, originally attempts to, like, arrange for him to meet him somewhere else so he could kill him, only for Byung-mo to, like, find out that, oh shit, my wife's cheating on him. So he thinks, like, oh, so you're the guy, like, you're the man who's, like, cheating with my wife. And then, just as, like, Mounts is like, yeah, like, what? Like, I can't, like, he can't hear him because the music's so loud. So he's just going with it. And I think it's a funny and it's a really fantastic choice to do that creatively, like, to make the music louder than even the dialogue, to the point where there's actually subtitles. There's Korean subtitles itself playing out in the scene. And then, just when the music goes really high, like, that's when the wife is in the house, Ara, and she, like, suspects, like, something's off, and then she goes in and she sees, like, oh shit, like, this guy removes his mittens, and he's got, like, a handgun under his, like, under the mittens, like, pointed at her husband. And she goes down and she gets that award, which is, like, the pulp man of the year. the same award like Mansu won for being in the industry. And then he like comes up and he's about to hit like Mansu and knock him out. But just when he's about to do that, Byung claims that like his wife Ara only loves him, implying that he knows about the infidelity, and that kind of like shocks shocks her because she doesn't like expect him to know. And much like his search, like it's a funny scene because it's like he's been aware of his wife's affair, but he's not done anything about it. He's been content to like waste away much of his time like being drunk or not really looking for a job. And his wife is like completely shocked. And Mansu feels so fed up. Like I think this is where like at first you see him projecting more of Byummo to his wife, and here you see Mansu being like, but that's not it at all. Like you have not listened to any of your wife's sensible suggestions. If why can't you just sell the house, or like if you can't raise money, sell the house, or like work in a cafe or something, or work in retail lifting boxes. And his wife is like in agreement in the back where he doesn't even know, like Mansur's unaware that his wife is literally standing behind him, like Byummo's wife Ara. And it's so funny because again the music is so loud that they can't hear each other. But I think it's funny because it's like it really defines the personality of the film, and it really defines like the connection between these three characters because he's developed a connection where he spied on them early and he begins to project their fears onto his own insecurities, and he ends up it's like he's scolding Byummo for not listening to his wife's sensible suggestions.
He
And
can't
there's
even take his own
something.
advice.
Exactly, he can't even take his own advice. And there's something about I don't know, there's something about that scene which is so absurdly funny, and
Yeah,
it's so
I
ironic.
think I really lost it when they were struggling to find the gun.
Yeah.
Like it was so like
It
hectic and hilarious and really unexpected what
like
happened.
it wears off with like the wife like agreeing and saying something, and he's shocked. Like Mansu's unaware, so he's shocked, and out of that shocked response, he shoots the bullet, and it hits like Byummo's shoulder, and that's where it like just there's a struggle that ensues, isn't it? Like they're all three fighting over the gun, and then they're like
Comically
wrestling
all
each
over the
other.
place. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's such a funny scene because like they're scrambling and the gun's under the table, and his wife is just like kind of agrees with Mansu, but at the same time, is like this is a fucked up situation. But I thought it was so well acted. Like the actors who were in the scene, like Lee Byung-hun and everyone involved in that scene, it was so well shot. Like this is something I think would have just on paper you could have looked at it and be like, yeah, this is just dialogue which can convey the thing. But I think like what the director does and how he shoots the scene here is it's so well done. Like it completely caught me off guard. Like I wasn't expecting the murder to be this like funny, and it's funny because it's sad, and it's sad because it's kind of funny. Like it kind of leaves you with like a weird, uncomfortable aftertaste. But like, how did it play out for you? Like after that, Russell?
Yeah, like I said, it was hectic. It was hilarious. It was unexpected what ended up happening because she ended up killing her husband with another shot from the gun, and she was even surprised that he died that way. She was like, "What?" Like she was just mad at him because he's a
Yeah,
piece of
I think
shit.
she tells him. I think she tells him it's not that you don't want to do. It's not that you don't want to like change. It's that the way you've handled it, the way you handled, you know, the whole decline of yourself. I think that's what she has a bigger gripe with
Mhm.
Byung. And I found the scene where she's like when she gets the gun, she's like pointing it towards herself, and she doesn't realize it.
Oh,
Well, she's trying to point it towards Mansu,
yep.
and then she's like, "Oh shit!" Like wrong side. and then she like tries to chase him out of the out of that residence before he like manages to get away. But it was like fucking hilarious. Like I was looking at it and I was thinking, shit, like he's so lucky to like escape without getting shot.
Right.
But
Or dying.
yeah, yeah, because you'd expect like something crazy to like
Mhm.
occur. But yeah, did that subvert your expectations the way it played out in the
Absolutely.
movie?
I thought he was just going to kill him. I didn't think it
Yeah,
was going to be a confetti cannon. Like it wasn't going to be, like so like choreographed and very odd.
yeah, for sure. I think like, and it's not easy to do that. It's not easy to like construct a scene like that. And I think they knew like this scene was very pivotal for the story because it had to land. And I think it does because it really sets the tone for the rest of the movie. And after that, like, I think the movie takes a much more like darker turn, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
So, like, that was the first murder, right? I
Yep.
think we can talk about like the second one
Mm.
because like the second one is like after like the whole he meets with his wife and suspects that she's cheating on him
Mhm.
and his wife kind of like starts to get paranoid a bit about him like potentially lying to her and doing something
Right.
else
Yeah,
like
they've been together a long time. I'm sure she knows what's up.
yeah, yeah. I mean
Seems
it is odd that he's like his behavior is increasingly like
erratic.
on edge and erratic. And then like he finds out like the second guy he needs to murder, and
Mhm.
it's Sijo, a guy who's like also in the same position like him, but unlike Byung-hun and Mansu, Sijo actually works at a retail store selling shoes, which is again shows you like a different shade. Like this shows you like this could have been Mansu. He could be just working another job and
Right.
like still trying to provide for his family like this guy. But instead, like, I think like he goes into the store trying to like spy on him until like he has to have this awkward conversation where he's trying really hard not to reveal his face, but
Right.
he's like I think it's a mixture of guilt and also like not like getting himself exposed. But like yeah, he finds out like Sijo himself has a daughter and just like him. And Mansu goes on that whole diatribe about like, oh yeah, like my daughter's like a very talented like
Prodigy.
uh prodigy, yeah, but I don't have the money to like buy her instruments, so the best I can do is buy her some shoes,
Mhm.
something like that. And yeah, what do you think of the second winner?
I thought it was so obviously he kills him, but yeah, I thought like that whole like what happens after when he's trying to like bury the body. It's like why would you bury it in your damn yard? This is the stupidest place you could
Yeah,
have put the body. That's the first place they're gonna look. They're gonna see a new planted
yeah,
tree and go, ooh. And then that his son tried to rob a phone store at the
yeah,
same time. So the cops showed up
yeah.
at his house and he almost confessed to murder, like right there. Like I loved that. I thought that was great. I was just like, this is awesome.
That's so funny because he knows he's riding his luck. He knows
Right,
he's
right,
riding his
right.
luck.
And he is a sloppy killer, so he's gonna get caught.
Yeah. I mean, he has to, like, I mean, I'm
Right.
looking at it and I'm thinking, even the first murder, like, how is he like managed to
Get away with it.
get away with it without really implicating himself? I mean, it's one thing to look at the fact that, yeah, like Ara is actually the one who like kills
Right, right.
Biamo
But he
and
was an
buries
accomplice.
yeah, yeah, and buries Biamo and buries him with the gun, which he later arrives at the burial site and he digs out the gun because he doesn't want to leave any trace like of evidence. So
Right,
he goes back to retrieve the gun because it's his grandfather's. So he does like it, clearly he's got like a plan and he's really like
right.
trying to follow
It's
through with it. But it's
premeditated.
just yeah, exactly it's
But
premeditated.
it's
But like
sloppy as hell.
he's just so inept and it's so funny because like this guy shouldn't be like having to be doing these things for like a fucking job. Like
Right.
it's not like Like this is the extent you go for just to get a job at the company at
No,
any random like it's not like is it really worth it? Like you
not
got
at
to ask
all.
yourself. But like for him, it's worth everything, right? He's sacrificing he's putting everything on the line here because as much as it's noble for him to want to provide for his family, at the same time it's extremely reckless because he's not only like putting their welfare on the line, he's kind of like, if he gets caught, like everything goes, like their whole future
Mm-hmm.
potentially gets put up in pieces. So I think like it's funny how he's such a contradiction as a character,
Mm-hmm.
and it says a lot about like masculinity in a way for me. Like the fact that, yeah, I think the way it plays out where once he murders the second guy who he waits for, like he tells him he's going to visit him back in the store, but he like pretends that his car broke down and he meets him and then he kills him and takes his
Yep.
body home. You know the bit where like he's about to like take the chainsaw and just like cut down his body.
Yep.
I was thinking like, oh shit, like this is like this is where it'll get really dark. I was like, this will show like how twisted he is. Like he's willing to do this, but instead he does something even crazier. Like fucking, he takes like bonsai wire, like his clippers, and
Yep.
like folds his body into like a foldable puzzle
He
piece.
does some
It's
human origami, is what he does. He's disrespecting the dead, is what he's doing.
it was so eerie to see that scene,
Right.
man. And all while his son's like kind of
He's
suspecting
Yep.
something's going
He's
on.
seen something's happened in the greenhouse. He can't really tell.
Yeah.
And his wife
He's
is
not sure.
she's getting onto it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's totally
She's onto
picking
it.
up on she's totally seeing the signs that there's something awry happening here. And you're right. Like he decides to like I think in hindsight he thinks, oh yeah, well, this is like the last place anyone will look for, right? Because like
Oh,
what's
stupid.
he thinks like why would anyone look into his own residence? And yeah, let me just like dig it in my
It's the
garden,
first
plant a
place they're
tree.
gonna look.
Yeah, and I think he tells his family that, or was it? I think the wife's the one who later finds out, like,
Yeah,
because
she
she
finds the
digs.
body and she's gonna cover up for him, and she tells the son, "Oh
Oh,
no, oh
it's
it's a
pig.
pig. Yeah, it was a roast."
And the pig thing is interesting because the pig there's a story about like how Mansu's grandfather like committed suicide in that house because he was a pig farmer
Mm,
and he lost his entire like business because there's a flu that like it was a virus that like affected all his pigs and he had to like kill all of them, like 200 of them or something. So I thought it was like kind of fun. It was kind of fucked up, like
mm,
how that played into it. Like his
yep.
son definitely, who's not even his actual son. I think it's his
Right.
like
It's an
wife's
adopted
first
son.
marriage. Yeah, the wife's first marriage. But like I think he does. You can clearly see like the scene where like the son gets obviously caught by the cops. Right, the cops arrive to his residence. Like an idiot, he's willing to confess and turn himself in
Yep.
until it's like he realizes, oh shit, they're not here for me, they're here for him, like my son who's like what caught doing
He's even
selling
a
iPhone.
stupider criminal.
Yeah,
And
maybe
the
it
best
runs in the
part is
family.
it's so one of the companies, his son meets another kid, and they rob that guy's store.
Yeah, they're good friends. The person
Yep.
they rob, they're good. In fact, one the friend is like a potential buyer who's interested to buy their house,
Yep.
which Mansu hates the idea of selling it to him.
Yep.
But like, yeah, it's so funny because while he's like escorting his son and like while they're taking him to the cops, he's like telling his son, like, yeah, like, it's not your fault and like you have to lie. And like you see like he's kind of like turned to the other side and he's like passing on that same wisdom onto his son, which is like do illegal shit and like, deny and just get away with whatever you can. I just thought that was such a
Lie, lie,
funny.
lie.
It was such a funny scene because like
Mhm.
the wife is like seriously concerned and wants to like help, and he's like here trying to say like no. And then in the end, like when they manage to get the son out, he even like gives him the cigarettes he found from the attic where he hid all the iPhones.
All right.
So
He's
it's
like, I
kind of
won't tell
funny how
mom.
yeah. It's funny how he like tries to out of all the scenes and out of all the moments, you see the family has a very like on the outside it looks like a very perfect happy family,
Right.
but when you look into it, you see that he's actually not that connected with them really, even though he's trying to provide for them. And that scene where he's like talking to his son is actually one of the first times you actually see him like really, bonding or doing
Mhm.
something relationship wise, building up rapport with his son. So I thought that was again, it was very funny scene that I didn't expect. And then yeah, so the second death, it didn't surprise you as much as the
No.
first one.
Nope, because his hands are already soiled.
Yeah. But
That
the
was a bad
third
pun.
one, well, Mansu is like a gardener, right? He's not afraid to get his hands dirty
It's true.
and put in the work, even
Saw what you
though
did there.
it's even though, even though it's extremely questionable what he
Yeah.
does, illegal. And then the third murder, I mean, that's when he's like, okay, I've got my competitors out of the way. Now I can finally like track down and kill the guy who has my job. And I was just looking at this and I was thinking, like, logically, if you're gonna do this, isn't it obvious like once people start investigating these deaths and try to form a connection, they'll be like, oh wait, they all work the same trade, same
Yep.
positions.
Yeah, the cops
And
are
like
going back into questioning him, and he couldn't even keep his story straight. Like he said that the
yeah.
men died. That hasn't been released to the public. Very suspicious. I'm surprised
Yeah.
they didn't catch him. Either like these cops are still onto him, like well after the fact, or they are just as inept as he is.
I think they're just as inept. I
Okay.
think they're just as inept. I feel at least that's the way I read it, because I think he clearly like when he said that, I was like, how have you not
Yeah, he was
implicated
like just
yourself?
tripping all over his tongue. Yeah.
Yeah. It was clear, like a clear break in character moment. But like I think the third death, right, was the most like I said the first murder was like the scene was like it was crazy in its own
Yep.
way. But the third one was really suspenseful for me because it really built up the tension. He meets this guy, right? He meets this Seon-chul guy, the guy who like humiliates him at the start of the film, where he rejects his job application. And this guy's an influencer posting everything about his life on social media. So he tails him. And this guy lives a pretty like he's actually a pathetic loser. Like he's miserable, he's moved into the woods
Yep.
and has a nice home, but he's lonely and he's just an alcoholic. And
Mhm.
it's like you're looking at it, and this is like you're looking at shades of like what Mansu could potentially become, like
And
if
it
his
is
family
kind of
left him.
bad. It sucks that he broke his sobriety to kill this man.
But it's such a crazy scene because like
Right.
he bumps into him outside and he like goes with it, right? He rides, and it's funny because like while they're drinking, he's just pouring all the alcohol in a bowl
Yep.
that he can't see. That was really funny. And then until where they got to do like shots and stuff, like they got to do
He's
like a
like,
beer
"There's no
bong.
way I can fake this."
Yeah, yeah, you're gonna have to drink for real. And they're both like he's drunk. Like
Right.
Seoncho is really drunk,
Yeah, that guy's shit
and
faced.
he's absolutely shit faced, and he's forced to break down his sobriety in that moment.
Mhm.
And I love the scene where they're pouring these beers in, right? It looks so like an advert or something. Like it's
Okay.
really pops. And then that scene where he's like gulping it down, and you're looking at the glass's point of view. and you're looking at like it's a reflection shot. I don't know how they shot that scene,
Mm.
but I was just amazed by like the camera work in capturing that because it shows like the bottom of the glass, and through that you're seeing like him chug this whole drink in, and it's insane. Like it felt like surreal, and yeah, while he does that, he actually like extracts his cavity filled tooth with
With the
a
fucking
plier.
pliers. Yeah.
And didn't that remind you of like that scene from Old Boy?
Yep. Sure did.
This director is not like unfamiliar when it
He's
comes to
not
teeth.
squeamish when it comes to pulling teeth. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's a symbolic moment too for Mansu because it's like, this toothache has been like nagging away at him the whole time. Like he's had to like deal with this. He's unable to get it checked. And it kind of represents what this whole pain is about being unemployed and not having his job. And then this is like that moment where he's finally like plucking it out and he's like, yeah, I'm done with this. And he gets him so drunk, he like buries him half like into the ground, like just till the head up, Sionchul. And then like I don't know, I don't think I can even describe what happens. Like, what did you think? Like, it's one of the most inventive like ways to kill someone, isn't it? Like, it's fucked up.
It's
Like, how
inhumane,
do
is what it
you?
is.
Yeah, how do you even fucking describe that?
I don't know. I have no help.
It's a funnel down his mouth and like
Yeah, like suffocates him. Yeah.
suffocates him, and then makes it look like he choked on his own vomit or something.
Yeah, yeah. And then he drags him back and it makes it look like that he didn't kill himself. Well, he
Yeah,
accidentally killed himself and he just choked on his own vomit.
yeah, yeah. All that while he's like FaceTiming with his wife, and he's like, "Yeah, yes, honey, I'm gonna come back, and
Yeah.
everything's fine. I'm just with a friend who's very lonely, who
Yep.
I haven't seen in a while." And this is where she like finds out that, oh fuck, like this guy's murdered people. He's
Yep.
like the cops were right to suspect and like ask questions around him
Right.
from earlier. And yeah, it's such a fucked up scene. Like the suspense of it all really builds
Oh yeah,
until
he
he does it.
finally turned into a demon. That's basically what happened.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like I said, like I love how each person he kills kind of reveals like a tiny version of himself
Yep.
in them.
Yeah.
Like
And he
it's really good
sacrifices a
writing.
part of himself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's really because like it's ironic when the first guy who he killed said there was no other choice, even though like there were
Right.
always options around, and it's like he goes through all this overt planning and horrible ways of gaslighting and murdering innocent people, which kind of means sacrificing his relationship with his family just so that he can like go back to the paper mill. Like
Yep.
it's kind of it's bizarre and it's absurd as it goes along, and it only
Hmm.
builds up. And yeah, like he's successful in getting all three of them killed without like actually getting caught.
All right.
And I thought that was the most impressive thing of it all. Like how he didn't get caught.
Because
Like,
he was really sloppy and he wasn't, a professional killer.
yeah, he wasn't a professional killer, but like his methods were insane.
Yep.
Even for like a commoner, like you
Right.
wouldn't expect.
Yeah, and they got more insane the longer he did
Oh
it.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It got really crazy, and I think like it just shows like this is it's funny because like the cause of it all is not really greater than what the act is.
Right.
And his actions aren't, you know,
They're
it's
not
none of it
justified.
is. Yeah, they're not justified. None of it is ever worth it compared to what
Mhm.
he's seeking in the end. But it's funny how like he gets away with it because I think the detectives come to the conclusion that, oh yeah, you know, turns out it was Byung-mo who was like the murderer because he killed he knew Sijo and he killed Sijo, and his wife, you know, implicated him committing suicide or something.
Right.
So like it just it clears him off any suspicion.
Right.
and I thought that was like pretty ironic.
All right, that was pretty. What do you call it?
Yeah, yeah, for
Not
sure.
conventional. Like it's convenient. I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty convenient. And again, I don't know if this is like meant to show if the detectives were again inept, as you said, or it's just luck, or pure luck of him
But lucky
escaping.
bullshit. That's what this guy has.
Because he does, I think he does get the job because like I
Yeah.
think there's a scene where he goes for the job interview, right?
Yep.
And he talks about like I think they're talking about, yeah, we need you, like we need you in this
Fully
plant, and
automated
eh,
paper plant.
yeah, but you're the only,
APP.
yeah, you're the
Only.
only, exactly. And he
Yeah.
thinks about it for a second, and he's just like bullshits and says, "Oh yeah, like you have to change with the times." And
It's the one
it's
thing he
so
didn't do.
ironic. Yeah, yeah, it's the one thing he refuses to do the entire movie.
Yeah.
You know,
And that, like I
uh,
said earlier, the line break, like getting that started again by yourself would be borderline impossible. It's called a line break for a reason. And when I worked at a paper plant, it happened all the time. Like in we would work 12-hour shifts and you'd have, maybe 8, 9, 10 line breaks. The paper was really shitty. And it'd take 10 people to rethread it. You have to pull it through all these conveyors. You have to go up multiple levels because of how big these machines are, and he would break all the time.
oh yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it's end of the day, it's like maybe that's like a critique, or it's like trying to exaggerate like how much AI and how much like all these
It's coming for our
new
jobs,
forms
that's
of
for sure,
technology.
but I still think it's a long way off. AI isn't perfect yet, and all of the automated robots, they're accidentally killing people at Amazon. So I don't think everyone's going to be unemployed anytime soon.
No, but no, it's not like this is doomsday right now, but it's
Right.
like I think this is like the message of the film. I think end of the day it does like it is a very anti-capitalist
Yep.
like black comedy take on society, and how like, we're kind of losing the values we have for like what self benefit, but at what cost, right? End of the day, like you look at what you lose. And for Mansu, I think it's a terribly dark ending. It's an unhappily ever after ending, if you ask me. Like I
Mhm.
don't think I think it's ironic that the scene the movie book ends with the same sort of scene it opens with, where he's hugging his family together, but they're all so uncomfortable with him because they kind of know like how fucked up he is. Like
Right,
they
right. His
know.
wife definitely is on top.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
but his daughter does play for them.
Yeah,
She
yeah, yeah,
does
yeah.
play for them. I thought that was
She
a nice
does.
touch.
But you know what's ironic about that scene? And this is where the movie has some incredible transitions and dissolves throughout the scene. And I think the transition here really does make a huge impact. It's like you see them like hugging each other like as a family, and the daughter's cello music, and that slowly gets drowned out by like all these like AI robots that are like cutting down trees, and you see like a pulp being shredded. And it's like directly I was reading an interview with the editors of the film, and they literally pointed out this specific scene and the intent behind it, saying like, that's actually meant to represent how like, you know how all these AI robots are like they're going to be destroying families and the well-being of families, because like, you know it's like their jobs all going to be taken over, and it's going to affect
Mhm.
everyone. And I think it's like a direct representation of like what that means, and what the themes of the movies are themes of the movie is as well. And yeah, like it's such a fucked up ending, because it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's just it's like it's a proper it's symbolic of how like capitalism is destroying families to build and grow. And all for what? Like you see the end of it, it's like Mansu's still stuck in traffic, you know in this shitty condition, and he ends up in the factory all alone, and he's like celebrating by himself while he's had to like pull the switches on and get all these like automated like robots to start working in the factory, and it's like pretty lonely and miserable, and it's like,
Mm.
that's the true extent he's willing to go to get what he wanted. But yeah, at what cost? You lost your humanity and your life, like you've lost like everything else just for this
You sold
one
your
thing
soul
that
for a job.
yeah, that's literally what it is. There's no better way to put it. But yeah, and then it goes on to this montage of, you see all these trees being cut down, and again it goes into this whole environmental angle to it.
Mm.
But for the most part, like, I really really enjoyed the movie. I thought the themes were really fascinatingly explored in a dark way, and the comedy, I was surprised by the comedy in the movie. I didn't expect it to be as uncomfortably funny as it was. But, you know, before we go into final thoughts, is there anything else you wanted to touch upon?
Nope, you got it all.
Okay. I just wanted to quickly shout out, like, I really loved the cinematography in this movie. The editing was incredible. Like, I already mentioned the dissolves and the match cuts. And yeah, I love the costume design too. I thought Mansu was dripped out, even though he was like pathetic. Like, yeah, they had some great costumes in this. So, like, technically, I could really, you know, I could really say this movie had no flaws for me. But I guess we'll go into final thoughts. Like, do you want to give it a rating?
Sure. Okay. So, No Other Choice was an interesting film that kept me guessing what would happen next. There are some slow parts at times, and if you can't watch a film that's slow burn, or if you just don't like foreign films and you hate reading subtitles, I wouldn't recommend it. But Mansu keeps you guessing if the murders he's involved in will end up getting him caught. I give this one a 7 out of 10.
A solid 7. I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. I
Hell
think
yeah.
it's like one of the year's best movies of 2025. It's running in cinemas right now as we speak. And I think like the message of the film, like, it's interesting. Like, I think it's a really gutsy thing to do, to like adapt something that's already been adapted before,
Mm.
and but to be able to adapt it again, but infuse so many new themes and add so much substance to it, really like elevates it from the source material. And this is where I want to shout out, like, the direction of the movie is incredible. Like, there's some things that I think this movie just wouldn't work without its director. Like, Park Chan-wook is just such master craftsman. Everything you expect with his direction, the way his movies are edited and shot, they're just like on another level. Like, the standard he sets for himself. And I want to shout out like the actors and the performances. Like, I really liked most of the performances in this film, but particularly like Lee Byung-hun. Like, I think he really carries the movie on his own. Like, it's an incredible performance. Like, even though like I'm not sure this will win any awards for it, but like it's not easy role to play. And I also really liked how much depth his wife's character had in this, and the performance by Son Ye-jin, who plays his wife Miri, I think, is really really excellent in this movie. I think the themes are really potent. I think it has a lot of things to say about society and capitalism, but like, yeah, the best way to describe this movie is it's funny because it's uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable because it's funny.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it's definitely one of the year's best. Definitely makes my top 10. I'm surprised the Academy didn't even nominate it for best
Academy doesn't even
international
know
feature.
what's going on.
I just think it's pathetic. I mean, you look at like, you even if
Didn't
you
even
don't
get
want to
Demon
nominate the
Slayer.
movie,
Yeah.
no, even if you don't want to nominate like the movie for its story, you look at the craftsmanship, like the editing, the cinematography, the even the adapted screenplay. Like, I'm shocked. Like, it got absolutely no nominations. I think it's disgraceful, really. I
Mm.
think it's this movie. Like, I'm glad that it did well in all the all the festivals it played in around the world. I think it got nominated in the Golden Globes, but it didn't win.
Mm.
But like, I think it really does deserve a lot of its flowers, and I hope like a lot of people go and watch this because I think it'll surprise you in a way you won't expect, unless we've already spoiled it for you. But that's I want to say I read a letterbox review about this movie that says what being on LinkedIn for 3 months does to a motherfucker, and I
Yeah,
couldn't stop laughing reading
pretty
that
much.
because it kind of is, it's kind of is like that. But I hope you don't go into the extents Mansu does if you need to look
Mhm.
for a new job, and
Mhm.
instead I hope if you do have a wife or if you do plan to have one, you listen to their sensible suggestions.
Mm.
But that concludes our review of No Other
All right.
Choice.
All right. I'm going to go to my local paper mill, drive a skid loader right into a huge stack of paper rolls weighing tens of thousands of tons. See you, Space Cowboy.